you can probably hear the rain. It's been raining a lot, and it's probably going to rain a lot for the rest of the year as well. So there we are. I have in my hands here, this is one of my journals. This is the journal for 2002. 2002 saw the start of my third and final academic year at Bradford University. The first and third year people at university were encouraged to live within halls of residence. In the second year you were supposed to live out in the community in a sort of student house, and I had obviously lived the first year in halls. I lived on the Lacebridge Lane site, which was off campus, not very far, but it was maybe a 5-minute walk from the campus, whereas there were halls of residence actually on the campus itself. So I lived in Revis Barber. All the halls, or most of the halls, on the Lacebridge Lane site were named after the original sort of governors of the university. So Revis Barber, for example, where I lived in the first year, Dennis Bellamy, it was another high-rise which I lived in during the second year, because what happened was I moved into a student house, as you would, and halfway through the academic year, so it must have been about, it was about April 2002, the student house sort of fell apart. People left, whatever. It became financially unviable, and I had to make a quick dash for the third semester back into halls of residence. That was a bit of an experience for me, because what it did was it wiped out the base of my my social group, my living social group, as opposed to the social group that I'd developed on my course. It sort of wiped that out, because it didn't end amicably at all, I'm afraid. So when I made a dash for halls Dennis Bellamy originally, I did not tell the people that I'd been living with where I actually lived. One of them got into trouble for sort of freeloading, sharing with another person in accommodation, which was not allowed at the university, because obviously you were paying for the accommodation, so you couldn't. It would class as being sublet, which wasn't allowed. And I was angry that they'd done this to save money. They'd moved into to halls, one of them, so they were paying one set of hall fees, but two of them were there. Another person had gone home because they'd failed the exams thus far and would have to resit the whole year, so they had that semester out, and basically I would have been left all on my own in this student house. I hasten to add that I'd been attacked in the local area where the student house was just before the student house collapsed, and I had not given thought to what would happen if everybody left and I was there on my own. So when I was on my own, and obviously it became impossible to keep the house and I had to make a dash for halls of residence, I might have told the university authorities about these two lads that had been living with me sharing university accommodation. And of course they got into very, very serious trouble for that. I don't quite know. I don't quite know what became of them, but they probably got into very serious trouble. And certainly they told the university that I was some sort of, I don't know, was it a drug stealer or something like that. But of course I had gone from the student house by this time. I had moved back into halls, and they did not know where I was, so they could not cause me trouble. So, the end of the year, obviously, I moved out of Dennis Bellamy, and across the holidays, I was back in Harrogate. And then the third year started around about the 15th, according to my diary, the 15th of September, Sunday the 15th of September 2002. And I moved into Charles Morris Hall with pretty much a clean slate, because I didn't know anybody in that building, and obviously the rest of the people that I'd been living with, as I've just explained, were no longer acquaintances of mine. Actually, the woman Joanne who redid her year, we did carry on sort of a friendship, but the guys, there was a guy called Martin Trigg and a guy called Paul Cattell. I think they were both doing computer sciences. God only knows what happened to them. I certainly never came across them again. So I moved into Charles Morris Hall, and Charles Morris Hall, it was room B16? B16, yep. Whereas it was J17 for Dennis Bellamy, and G8, I think, or G6, one or the other, for Revis Barber. So I moved in, and I had no idea at that point in time that my Annus Horribilis was about to begin. The Annus Horribilis really, in terms of, was really a calendar year, and that was the calendar year of 2003. So I was a couple of months, I think that's thunder. Oh no, it's a plane. So I was a couple of months before the start of that, but the academic year that would run through that period of time had begun. And it was surprising, because although it would turn out to be my terrible year, it was also the year in which I did my biggest and my best academic achievement, because of course I did my undergraduate dissertation. I'd been doing my degree, which was a Bachelor of Arts with honours, the title was Interdisciplinary Human Studies. It was a modular social sciences course which had philosophy, psychology, sociology and English literature as its main components. And then on top of that, you could take modules in all sorts of stuff. So there was a sort of social studies and humanities department, which our department, IHS, actually became part of by the time that I left. Because of course in the third year, when I was in the third year of university, the government, the Labour government at that time, were trying to push universities and colleges together to create big academies, just like they were doing with schools. And you know, there was talk about Bradford University and Bradford College, which are right next to each other geographically, joining, and that was about to happen, and then the deal fell through, you see. So certain parts of the university departments did sort of join together, and IHS and SSH, Social Studies and Humanities, those departments went together. But I took modules in peace studies, in fact, and I did global peace and security, in fact, and strategic studies was the one for my semester 2, which was interesting because I did those, of course, in the what, 6 to 8 months before the Iraq War began. So I was right in the right time for studying that sort of thing, considering what the current climate had been all about. So that sort of sets the scene, I guess, for you. Obviously, I did not have this video recording back then, so you know, you can't exactly rewind and look at videos of the time because there aren't any. But you know, I'm trying to. I will be covering in these sessions, these living and learning blogs, little snippets, I suppose, of my life before a time when it was all online. So at least you get a little bit of background, so then if ever I sort of start to mention things that happened before, you might know about them. So that is probably about all I've got for this, all I want to say for this week. Obviously I have been on holiday, and we were going to go to the Pateley Bridge agricultural show today, but that got cancelled. Well, it didn't get cancelled. I assume it still happened, but it's absolutely dreadful weather. So me and my nan decided it was a rather a long way to go, so we're not going. We wouldn't bother. So I have yet another week off work, and then so this time next week, I suppose I'll be getting ready to go back and see what the rest of the year has in store for us.